Honorable Manzini. Honorable Mkabela. Honorable Shangwe. Honorable Khruvier Morgan.
Umsebenzi wami ukuthi ukwehlisa ulaka. Bengikhuluma nabelungu, bengikhuluma nabantu ukuthi bakithi ake sikhulumisana, ake sihlale phansi sikhulume, sibone ukuthi singazwana kule ndaba. I want to say here in this house that I heard that the Honorable Chief Whip of the governing party was there. From what I heard, what he was trying to do there was to calm down the situation. And I want to say and remark on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus, what he was doing there, we appreciate and we applaud. We thank you, Honorable Mlombo. We thank you for that. I believe that it is not in our interest that we look upon one another as enemies. Asikwazi ukuthi sibukane ukuthi sizondane. Izandla ziyagezana. Nalapha nalapha kwenzeke konke lokho asikuthandi thina. Asikuvumi lokho kwenzekile. Kodwa ekugcineni funa ukuthi sibambisane. Masibambisana kahle lemhlaba iPumalanga siyawuvusa. Masihambe silwa sonke isikhathi siyawubhidliza yonke into eyenzekile lapha ngeke kusithathe kuye siva phambili. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Shongwe. Executive statements. Are there any executive statements? Motions without notice. Are there any motions without notice? Honorable Makaringe.
Greetings to the House. Good morning, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the motion without notice on behalf of the ANC to commend the Department of Human Settlement for making a stance by setting out to complete all unfinished houses throughout the province. The MEC made this call at the recent held forum of municipalities and the MEC MUNMEC to urgently deal with all incomplete houses that adversely affect the department's constitutional mandate to provide access to adequate housing. Noting that the incomplete houses are understood to be the ones abandoned by contractors or terminated for various reasons. With this understanding, the MEC discounted executive Lekgotla decision to have all houses completed. He further noted that 48 incomplete houses need to be completed by the close of the second quarter. A consolidated list sourced from municipalities indicate that 1,191 incomplete. However, upon physical verification by the department, the number drastically dwindled to 59. Further noting that most of the 1,191 houses listed by the municipalities were not necessarily incomplete houses, but rather houses not built for waiting beneficiaries, houses that are still under construction, houses with pending issuance of title deeds, houses without external service connections, or houses with maintenance-related issues. We note that the department planned to deliver 31,324 housing units over the medium-term strategic framework. It is against this that the ANC impressed upon this House to commend the stance taken by the department in further fulfilling its constitutional mandate. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agree to. Motion is defeated. Motion defeated. Honorable Grobler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and greetings to the House. I rise to deliver a motion without notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, noting that according to the acting CEO of the Mpumalanga Regional Training Trust, the Royal Hotel in Pilgrim's Rest could be closing its doors after 127 years. Further noting that the Royal Hotel's ability to pay its short-term obligations is progressively reducing year on year, and its current assets are less than its current liabilities, which is a further indication that the Royal Hotel Pilgrim's Rest is insolvent. To make matters worse, 55 employees of the MRTT Royal Hotel Pilgrim's Rest will be affected by the closure of this establishment. Noting further, little has been done by the Mpumalanga provincial government to protect this historical town since 2012. And even now, the debt has assisted with the marketing and the advertising of Pilgrim's Rest, as well as the provision and the installation of notice boards, which means that all departments are throwing in a little bit, but there's very little effect. Although there has been interventions, and some of these interventions have been implemented, these interventions did not yield a positive result. And the challenges are still faced by the town of Pilgrim's Rest and the residents of Pilgrim's Rest. Honourable Speaker, I therefore move that this House calls upon the MEC of Public Works, Roads and Transport to present a rescue plan to really make a difference in the town of Pilgrim's Rest, as well as to keep the Royal Hotel Pilgrim's Rest afloat. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agree to. The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agree to. So agreed. Are there any motions without notice? Honorable Weber. Are there any motions without notice? Notices of motion. Are there notices of motion? Honorable Weber.
Madam Speaker, I rise to give notice of a motion on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus. I move this notice of a motion for this House to move in favour in filling the critical vacant positions in various departments as indicated in the 2020 and 2021 budget and performance plans of the departments, as there are significant financial issues with regards to the wage expenditure. The average wage bill at Mpumalanga legislature in general takes up the majority of the budget. Yet, in contrast to this, on average, filled critical positions is significantly very low. For example, in the Department of Education, the expenditure on wages takes up 83.2% of the total budget, yet the vacancy rate is a staggering 43.8%. We further move that these urgently vacant positions in all departments be filled before the end of the next financial quarter, and if the budget does not allow for this, then salaries must be cut to accommodate this expenditure. Without the needed leadership in all departments, there is no accountability for the failures of the departments and the outrageous amounts of irregular and wasteful expenditure. I so move.
The motion is noted and will be dealt with accordingly. Are there notices of motions? Honorable Mlombo.
Madam Speaker, I, Fana Vincent Mlombo, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, hereby table a notice of motion in terms of Rule 84, Sub-Rule 1B, that at the hybrid sitting of Tuesday, the 8th of June 2021, I shall move that the House, number 1, note that the policy and budget speech for the 2021-2022 financial year shall be tabled by the
Honorable Chief Whip, we are on notices of motion.
It's drafted as the notice of motion.
It's a formal motion. We are still coming there.
Okay.
Yes. Honorable members, are there notices of motions? Those who are on visual platforms, I request that you raise your hand when you want to speak on the item before, because I've noted that some members raised their hands later after we have dealt with the item of a motion without notice. I will now call upon formal motions. There is a motion standing in the name of Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable F. Mlombo. I now call upon the Chief Whip to formally table the motion.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Maybe before I table the formal motion, I think this matter must be corrected. I've always been arguing that this is not a notice of motion, it's a formal motion, but there is a problem between the Secretariat and legal. They always present it as a notice of motion. But nevertheless, I will read it, Speaker. I will just raising it that in future we need to correct it. The motion reads as follows. I, Fana Vincent Mlombo, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, hereby table a formal motion in terms of Rule 84.1 B, that at the hybrid sitting of Tuesday, the 8th of June 2021, I shall move that the House, number 1, note that the policy and budget speeches for the 2021-2022 financial year shall be tabled by the Premier, Speaker, and members of the Executive Council during the hybrid sitting of the House as per the order paper for the hybrid sitting of the 8th, 10th, and 11th June 2021. Further note that Rule 191 provides that, I quote, each member of the Executive Council must, on the day and time determined by the Speaker, deliver a policy speech and table a budget for his or her department, whereafter the Speaker must call for a debate on the speech and the budget. Close quote. I shall therefore move, Honourable Speaker, that the House adopts a resolution in terms of Rule 4, Sub-Rule 1, to suspend the provision of Rule 191 and consequently not to debate the policy and budget speeches relating to the following votes. The votes are as follows. The Office of the Premier, vote 1. The Provincial Legislature, vote 2. The Provincial Treasury, vote 3. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, vote 4. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism, vote 6. The Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison, vote 9. The Department of Culture, Sport and Recreation, vote 11. And the Department of Social Development, vote 12. Honourable Speaker, I so move.
I am informed that there is no debate on this motion. Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion as tabled by Honourable F.V. Mlombo. Agreed to? As so agreed. We'll now proceed with the orders of the day. The Secretary shall read the first order of the day.
Order number 1, Policy and Budget Speech on Vote 5, Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs.
I now call upon the MEC for Agriculture, Rural Development, Land, Environmental Affairs, Honourable M. James Sibi, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
The Honourable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to greet you, the Deputy Speaker and the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, the Honourable Premier of the Province, Mr. Philip Twenitsipane, Honourable Members of the Executive Council, Honourable Members of the Provincial Legislature, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Honourable Mr. P. Lubisi, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable MC Sadibe, Executive Mayors, District Mayors and Local Municipalities, the Chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders and the Traditional Leader present, the Acting TG of the Province, Mr. T.P. Nyoni, the HOT of the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs, Mr. C.M. Chunda, and other heads of departments, the African National Congress Acting Provincial Chair, Mr. Mandla Ndlovu, and the rest of the leadership, the representative from Organized Agriculture, the reps from Business Community, reps from Labour Federation, distinguished guests and members of the public, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Madam Speaker, we are tabling this budget vote while the whole country is still struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic. His Excellency, the President Cyril Ramaphosa, has recently announced that the country is adjusted to level 2 lockdown. This is an indication that of the long road ahead that we still have to traverse in order to emerge on the other side victorious against the scourge of this deadly pandemic. And all of us, including our workforce in the department, must continue to observe the COVID-19 protocols. Further exacerbating the difficulties in the agricultural sector is the real and the present challenges of climate change, which slowly but surely has now become a perennial predicament without periphery. We must take climate change head on with practical interventions and programs if we are able to realize our outcomes and goals of increased agricultural production, broaden participation in agro-processing, reduce unemployment through green jobs creation, and sustainable environmental management in support of key priorities in the medium strategic framework and the NTP. The economic impact on agriculture, Madam Speaker, is central to the economy of the province. It plays a major role in the food production and the GDP. Despite being the second smallest in size, it has significantly high export contribution at 64% on all agricultural products in 2017. Mpumalanga is classified as one of the top 3 major producers of maize alongside Free State and Northwest provinces. The sector contributed 38.4 billion to the annual economy with 73,319 people employed in commercial agriculture. The total income for the commercial agriculture industry in 2017 was 32.8 billion, and our provincial contribution of 38.4 billion accounted for 11.6% of the total income of the country, and only third after Western Cape and Free State provinces. Of concern, Madam Speaker and honorable members, is that 73,319 people employed in commercial agriculture as of 30 June 2018 was down by 15.6% from 86,890 on the 28th February 2007. In a State of the Province address, our Honorable Premier, Ms. Refilm Tonisipan, insightful remarks with a rhetorically question that, I quote, agriculture is one of the most employment-intensive sectors of our economy. It is the only industry that has the potential of propelling our people from abject poverty into prosperity. The question is how to grow this sector, which is often referred to as the backbone of our economy, to fulfill its potential. This budget, Honourable Speaker, reflects our considered reposite to this rhetorically yet pertinent question by the Honourable Premier, given the fact that as a province we are strategically positioned to influence key economies of Mozambique, the Kingdom of Eswatini, the province of Gauteng, Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal. Cohesion in the sector. Madam Speaker, the need for cohesion within the sector cannot be overemphasized. Hence, we are gravely concerned about the incidences such as those that took place in Erziban district and in Mkondo, to be specific, wherein farm workers were killed by farmers. Such barbaric behavior must not only be condemned in the strongest term possible, but the law must take its course with criminals arrested for such criminal conduct. To this end, we have since brought together and held meetings with 4 key agricultural unions in the province, namely Afasa, Agri, Mpumalanga, Nafu, and Tau SA. This is important for the sector to break the silo mentality and unnecessary contestation amongst the key stakeholders, interest parties, and farm dwellers. Madam Speaker, working together will ensure collective unity within the sector towards achieving the much-needed balance between production activities and sustainable job creation through agriculture. We must continue to intensify efforts to transform the sector towards achieving equity and sustainable production, which includes increased participation by the marginalized sector of our people. This transformation is also characterized by our engagement with the key stakeholders such as national and provincial sector departments, commodity representatives, private sector, and farmers to develop the provincial agricultural master plan, which is directly linked to the national agricultural and agro-processing master plan. The focus now will also be involving stakeholders such as Mpumalanga University and Agricultural Research Council. Madam Speaker, and honorable members, I'm happy that this institution have expressed an interest and willingness to be part of this collaboration, because we all agree that agriculture is both a science and a business. We have to increase agricultural production. As the honorable has asked, starting point in growing the sector is ensuring equitable access to land. The issue of access to land, Madam Speaker and members, is that the transformation of this sector begins with issues of access to land, which remains an emotional subject for many of our people, given the history of how they were dispossessed with their land declared as the land belongs to no one. Therefore, as a province, we support the current national effort to amend the property clause in the Constitution to clearly address transformation of land ownership. However, while this process is unfolding, we are actively and practically implementing programs on the ground that are actively facilitating access to land through the following strategies: accelerating land leases to those who have no access to land for agriculture; 2, restoration of arable hectares of land to the previously disadvantaged sector of our community. In this instance, to date, 207,550 hectares of land have been acquired for distribution to qualifying farmers in the province through various strategies, including land distribution for agricultural development and proactive land acquisition strategy. Working together with National to support land restitution program, and we'll closely work with COCTA, Public Works, Roads and Transport and Rural Development to facilitate transfer of state land that has township on them from our provincial asset register to municipalities, so that title deeds are given to our people. Provision of support. Madam Speaker, once we have made land available, we'll then provide specific support cultivation of this land so that it does not lay fallow. This, Madam Speaker and honorable members, we do so because we know that growing your own food is like printing your own money. Madam Speaker, we are intensifying the support of household food gardens in order to ensure our people have food in their table. It is our objective through this program to bring our exit strategy for our indigent grant-dependent households. This will achieve through identifying grant beneficiaries and provide them with climate-smart agricultural technologies to produce their own vegetables and link them with agri-hubs to be suppliers of the government nutrition program. Once they are able to produce enough to exceed the grant amount, they will be able to exceed the grant and will help them to become smallholder producers. We support smallholder and emerging farmers through the following programs. PESGOM Economy. Madam Speaker, we have intensified the provision of mechanization and production inputs to support all our farmers, and particularly the household subsistence and emerging farmers. Focus has been in providing seeds, chemicals, and training to the mostly unbankable farm. We also provide mechanization to address limited or unavailability of mechanization at farm level to ensure food security at homestead. On Masimini, Madam Speaker, in addition, we will also intensify the provision of livestock support to our farmers to increase production level. Key focus areas are in feedlots complexes, aquaculture layers, and milking parlor revamps. The support will include the provision of livestock handling facilities such as at dams, fencing, and access to market. On infrastructure project, Madam Speaker, we have noted that some of our infrastructure projects are not performing at their optimal level. We have since initiated a process of assessing a number of projects that were conceptualizing some years back, which are no longer functional. This project being profiled with the intention of resuscitating those that are still economically viable. We have initiated a process of establishing a program for incubation purposes where funds can be invested through partnering with other stakeholders for acquisition of farms where benefits of investment can be realized. The agricultural environment infrastructure support will include one-stop center, trailer houses, and environmental centers, and maintenance of community dams. On agro-processing, Madam Speaker. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, agro-processing is one of critical steps that is critical in creation of more green jobs through beneficiation of produce in the value chain while increasing value for the farmer from produce. In this regard, the department provides the following assistance to our farmers. First, the agri-hubs, Madam Speaker. Our focus and commitment is to substantially expand agricultural and agro-processing sector. According to Stats SA, 15% of farming income was generated from horticulture, and these were generally processed and exported through the fresh produce market sectors. The department is facilitating increased access to markets of our farmers by rolling out the establishment of agri-hubs in each district. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to announce that we have completed the feasibility study of the establishment of agri-hubs in Kangala and Komas. The development of these two agri-hubs, Nkangala and Komas, is planned to commence this financial year. The department is projecting 300 direct jobs to be created during construction stages of this development. On Macadamia Nut Agro-Processing Plant, Madam Speaker, the Stats SA reports that there was a substantial growth in the tree nut industry between 2007 and 2017, and mainly in the Hlanzeni district. The industry grew up by 240% in terms of area planted, by 353% in terms of production per hectare increase. Over 53.7% of these nuts were exported. However, Madam Speaker, this industry requires a substantially high degree of capital investment to get off the ground. We have therefore set aside a budget to conduct a feasibility study of establishing an African black-owned macadamia nut processing plant. On sugarcane community-based plant, Madam Speaker, sugarcane in Mpumalanga is the second largest field crop at 1.4 metric tons after maize, and is produced by mainly in the Hlanzeni district. The question is, Madam Speaker, what is the contribution of our black farmers who are mainly at subsistence level in all this value chain? Madam Speaker and honorable members, to answer this question, we need to come to this space and address the domination of agro-processing by major companies. We are undertaking a feasibility study on the establishment of a sugarcane milling plant within reach of these emerging sugarcane farmers in the Nkomazi area. This will also assist in job creation. On grain milling, Madam Speaker, in 2019-2020 production year, Mpumalanga was top in commercial grain sorghum producer, ahead of other top producers such as Limpopo, Free State, and Northwest, respectively. A significant percentage of this is processed mainly for human purposes, about 95%, such as malt and sorghum meal, also known as mabele, and traditional African pear, commonly known as umqombothi. Honorable members who are drunk. The remaining 5% of the total commercial processing volume is used for animal feeds and export market. We are transforming the sector to increase the participation of subsistence and emerging farmers in the grain primary and secondary production, which will present an opportunity to open this market for small and emerging millers and primary producers of the sorghum grain. In this regard, the department has started the refurbishment of the infrastructures of the black and emerging sorghum mills. Madam Speaker, on Nkosi City, as a department, we have noted commitment made by the Honourable Premier in a State of the Province Address of 2021 to continue without preparation for integrated human settlement mega projects such as Nkosi City in Tanchi, Dingwell in City of Mbombela, Smart City in Komazi, Ritfieldville in Mkondo, Sekunda West in Mpegi, and Rondebosch in Steve Tshwete local municipalities. Madam Speaker, as a department, we note the opportunities that such development provide for sustainable agricultural development. For instance, Nkosi City is an opportunity for sustainable agribusiness hub and agri-village. The department has initiated a comprehensive training program aimed at providing potential beneficiaries within this mega project with relevant multidisciplinary skills. We anticipate that over the coming years, we will be highly involved in providing for one development of 2,003 square meter size food garden in each household, totaling to 7,000 hectares. Planting of fruit trees along the street through the Zondindlala program, subject to sustainability, to suitability and adaptability of macadamia, etc., shall also be targeted alongside other climate smart plantations. The department, together with the partners, shall initiate establishment of food processing for both produce vegetables and fruits. On women, youth, and people with disability in agriculture, on Mpumalanga Young Farmer Incubation Program Fortune 40, Madam Speaker, allow me to borrow the ocean wisdom. As I quote, just as wave pushes wave to renew itself, so must new blood and young blood push old blood in order to renew society. The department is continuously adapting its models of service delivery with the view of increasing its efforts of attracting young farmers to renew the farming sector. We intend encouraging young farmers to produce high-value crops such as medicinal plants and actively involved in agro-processing thereof, because these are a passion for young people, in particular young women. We commit to roll out our Mpumalanga Young Farmer Incubation Program Fortune 40 and improve it to provide opportunity for young people with disability. In so doing, we believe, Madam Speaker, that we will increase the role of young people and women in agriculture while also creating much-needed jobs for our young people. On research, development and training. Madam Speaker, for farmers to effectively participate in the whole agricultural value chain, agricultural and related skills are crucial. The department is strengthening its coordination with structures involved in agricultural training, including sister departments, academic institutions, civil society, and private sector through the Provincial Agricultural Education and Training Forum. Madam Speaker, we are currently refurbishing farmer training centers at Elijah Mango, Marapiane, and Mzinti in order to provide accredited training programs at these centers. On research and development, Madam Speaker and honorable members, climate change is continuing to negatively impact the sector with epoch of natural disasters, invasive crop pests, the fall armyworm, which have recently put our farmers under tremendous stress and financial losses. It is important, therefore, for us to harness latest advances in research and development, including advancement in climate-smart agriculture through collaboration with the ARC and ATF, amongst others. We are refurbishing the Atoll Research Farm and maintaining the Noitedag Research Farm to support both crop and animal research. On climate change and environmental degradation, the department has complemented the development of Provincial Environment Outlook Report, which provides citizens and stakeholders, decision makers, with information on the state of the environment in the province. The implementation of Zonda Insila program also serves as a climate change intervention in reduction of greenhouse gases while promoting environmental protection, and socio-economic upliftment is on course and creating the much needed jobs. We'll continue, Madam Speaker, to focus on climate change intervention by developing a just transition plan, Life After Coal Mines, which will be guiding document for the province for job resilience and contributing reduction of greenhouse gas emission by 10% by implementing sector projects and plans. In closing, there may be some unique job opportunities made possible by potential to grow giant bamboo in many parts of Mpumalanga, even on degraded lands, and by fledgling voluntary carbon markets that are starting to take root internationally as part of international trade mitigation outcomes. A number of high-quality products can be made from the harvested bamboo timber, which adds to the potential to make biochar, which is possible at some sawmills. Biochar has been identified internationally as an attractive ITMO climate sequestration option. Good governance and accountability. For successful delivery of the budget as tabled, it is important, Madam Speaker and honorable members, that the department is appropriately capacitated. It is important, therefore, that critical vacant posts have been filled with actors for the last 10 years are budgeted for and filled with immediate effect, as this presents a threat to good governance and accountability in the department, as already highlighted by the Auditor General in our audit. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank our Honorable Premier, Ms. Refilem Tsipane, and members of the Executive Council for their guidance and support. I also wish to express my appreciation to the Portfolio Committee on Agricultural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs under the leadership of its chairperson, Honorable Mr. P. Lubisi. I also want to thank the officials of the department who are here in their numbers, led by the head, Mr. Mfana Chunda, to our external stakeholders, organized agriculture and farmers. Let us continue working together to support the farming community. My appreciation also goes to the African National Congress for the guidance and support they've given us. And lastly, I want to thank my family and wife for their warmth and ever-present support. On budget allocation, Honorable Speaker, I hereby present the vote to this August House to approve the 2020-21 financial year budget allocated in our 9 programs as follows. Program 1, Administration, 203,575,000 rand. Program 2, on Sustainable Resource Management, 65,251,000 rand. Program 3, Farmer Support and Development, 503,210,000 rand. Program 4, on Veterinary Services, 167,944,000 rand. Program 5, Research and Technology Development Services, 68,029,000 rand. Program 6, Agricultural Economic Services, 19,029,000 rand. Program 7, Structured and Agricultural Education Training, 34,260,000 rand. Program 8, Rural Development Coordination, 29,587,000 rand. Program 9, Environmental Affairs, 144,064,000 rand. The budget allocation for 2021 financial year is 1,234,855,000 rand. This budget, Honorable Speaker, will enable us to deliver on the plans of the Department and Agricultural Development and Environmental Affairs as outlined. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable MEC Msibi, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the second order of the day.
Order number 2, consideration and debate on a report of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs on Vote 5, Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs, Honorable B.M. Lubisi, to table this report.
the department's plans to build 2 more agri-hubs, one in Nkangala and one in Nkomazi. We know that the one in Mkondo as well as the one in Kulu have been finished for quite a number of years, but they are not functional. And Honourable MEC, the question is, shouldn't we get our finished buildings operational, or the finished agri-hubs operational, before we build new ones? I think that's important to mention about the entire budget. It's not the plans, but it's the implementation thereof that is important, because it's the implementation that will really make the difference in the lives of our residents in the province. Honourable MEC, the budget reprioritization affects the core mandates of the department, because despite an increase in the budget allowed to all programs, output seems to be decreasing. Very worrying, Honourable MEC, is the foot and mouth disease that is a highly contagious virus and affects the livestock very seriously. And we are very worried about the decrease in the procurement of the foot and mouth disease vaccines, as we feel that this will be exposing the animals in this province to a severe outbreak of the virus. Honourable MEC, the Honourable MEC, Honourable Speaker, the Honourable MEC mentioned that the department will continue to focus on climate change interventions by finalising the Just Transition Plan. It is, however, very worrying that this is the same department that allowed mining in the Mabola protected environment, and they struggle to enforce the compliance with regards to power stations all over the province. We cannot speak on the one hand of environmental or looking after the environment, and on the other hand we are acting against our own policies. Honourable Speaker, I believe that a lot more can be done to assist the residents of this province, especially in the area of promoting food security and lessening the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to see the department assisting the residents of this province by promoting food security and improving access to small and subsistence farmers to the markets by fully functional agri-hubs, agri-parks, and then the fresh produce market. And then, Honourable Speaker, in conclusion, I think it's very important to mention that this department, as the rest of government, plays a huge role in ensuring that relationships between farm owners, farm workers, that relationship between commercial farmers and emerging farmers, that relationships between subsistence farmers and agriculture unions, all of these role players and stakeholders in the agriculture sphere, that this department plays a huge role to ensure that these relationships are cherished and that people work together, because if all these stakeholders don't work together, then the country is going to suffer, because food security is going to be under huge threat. I thank you, Speaker.
I now call upon Honourable W.L. Weber. We are given 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, when I first came here 2 years ago as a newcomer to this august House, I expressed my desire to convince the governing party to adopt policies which will enhance our production, which will make our province prosperous. And in respect of agriculture, I think the main goal of winning nations is to make do everything that is possible to make agricultural production as productive as can be. But then, if I raise these sentiments, I'm confronted with a view that, yes, that is true, but we must fix the injustices of the past first. We must return the land to the rightful owners. Now my question is, who is the rightful owners of Mpumalanga? Historically, the whole of Mpumalanga belonged to the Swazi nation, represented by the Swazi king. Now, I was invited to the Swazi King's palace. I was in his palace. And there in his palace, we drafted a joint press statement whereby the Swazi King said that this land, yes, it belonged to the Swazi nation, but it was not stolen. It was said by the Swazi King, and a joint press statement was drafted in the King's palace by his subordinates. And when we released that press statement, the question arises, if that is true, there were two treaties drafted in 1846 and 1855, whereby this whole land was given to the descendants of the voortrekkers as the everlasting property, as rightful and peaceful land use rights forever and a day. Now, if this land was not stolen, if there's an agreement that this land was not stolen and given to the descendants of the voortrekkers didn't wage a war against the Swazi people. It was they didn't ask for the land. Where we live here, the Swazi King asked the voortrekkers to come here to act as a buffer between the Swazi people and the race of the Zulu people. Now, Madam Speaker, if that is true, we must act in the spirit of those agreements and act as a peaceful, coexistent people in Mpumalanga. We must respect one another, and we must make sure that izandla ziyagenzana.
I will now call upon the Honorable M.J. Msibi. You are given 10 minutes.
No, once more, Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to start with first let me appreciate all the input presented upon us as a department, and the HOT with the team is here. They are noting them down as for processing and programming them to our plans in the department. But it will be correct, Chair, that when we come to this Oka's house, we took an oath. History is known. When I was a learner at school, I was studying history. History taught me of what we call, and it's not been disputed, of the Dutch East Indian Company arrival in 1652. And in 1658, there was what we term as seed of conflict, where those who arrived started to seize of what belongs to the original people. There is still a debate between the Khoi and the Sans. They define themselves, you remember, as aboriginal people of South Africa. So it's a debate for another day, but it can't be correct that we come to this sitting and deliberately distort history. Mpumalanga belong to people of South Africa, and there's a constitution for that. We are not an extension of the kingdom of Eswatini, and will never be. That history is distorted and aiming at distracting us in addressing challenges facing the province and the country, and it cannot be allowed. On the matter raised by Honorable Kobler, we want to appreciate that you are happy that the budget has increased. We are saying that the shortage of the staff, our policy says that we must be helped by the legislature and the portfolio committee and the entire government to ensure that for us to be able to discharge our responsibility, we need to deal with the issue of the Hollywood style of acting in the department. Because when somebody is acting, Honorable Speaker, he or she is not even certain himself or herself whether he can be appointed or not, and therefore he cannot perform optimally to the assigned responsibility. That is our plea. On the issue of project of Morocco and the new one, what I want to acknowledge, Honorable Kobler, is that there were challenges in the agri-hubs, in particular the one of Dr. Charles Morocco, a matter which we have handled. I still remember when we in Cocta, it was part of the investigation, if you recall, and an outcome was issued by the forensic, and the matter is being in good hands now. However, we cannot stop creating new economic development hubs for the entire province on the basis that others has not been successful. We will work to put a success of those that have been unsuccessfully and create new ones to enhance and harness economic development. But it's a point that we're taking. And we also take note that the output is decreasing. That's why we have said in our speech, we have noted and want to resuscitate those that were economic viable. But the issue of Mabola, again, it's a complex matter. When we discuss this matter, we must be frank and honest. We'll take a report, we're going to take a report to the portfolio committee and request the speaker through the right channels that we come and debate the issue of Mabola. The issue of Mabola must not be debated in isolation of first economic development and those that who want to ensure that the previously disadvantaged groups are not benefiting to new economic dispensations. So it's a matter that we think we'll have to take 8 discussions to that particular effect. And the last point on the relationships between the farm workers, farm owners and farm dwellers and labor tenants requires also an honest aspect from all of us. Madam Speaker, the issues of farm dwellers are very complex. It includes issues of labor, issues of human settlement. That's why together with COGTA we are going to coordinate various departments to respond to the issue of the farm dwellers. But there are issues, there are matters that are taking place in different areas in farming communities. And Honorable Mfukeng is correct that in some areas, livestock of black farmers are being taken. It's a matter that we must address, all of us. And we must be frank when we address these matters in an endeavor to ensure that we bring peace and stability in the province. But it couldn't be correct from Honorable Mfukeng to say that there's a master plan for 4 months, we have done nothing. We are going to provide the master plan to Honorable Mfukeng to read it correct. The master plan speak of stakeholder engagement, and I've indicated that we have engaged with University of Mpumalanga and ARC. I've indicated that we have engaged with the unions in endeavor to find peace, lasting peace solution to the infighting that are happening in municipalities. So the statement that for 4 months and nothing has happened is misplaced and it's worse at its best. Honorable Lubisi, we also want to thank the impression and the input given to us on our accountability, on the issues of our mandate for food security and the issue of the one-stop accountability. We want to promise this House Chair that all the matters raised by honorable members will be dealt with and the report will be processed through the right channels. Thank you very much once more for the opportunity.
Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt this report as tabled by Honorable Lubisi. Agreed to? As so agreed. The Secretary shall read the third order of the day.
Order number 3, Policy and Budget Speech on Vote 6, Department of Economic Development and Tourism.
I now call upon the MSc Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable P.V. Mkachwa, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party and the Deputy Chief Whip, the Honorable Premier, colleagues in the Executive Council, Honorable members of the Provincial Legislature, the Acting Director General, Acting Head of the Department, and all other HODs, chairpersons of the boards of our public entities and CEOs, organized labor and private sector partners, the people of our province, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, sanbonan. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to present our plans for the 2021-2022 financial year, which are geared towards steering our province out of economic doldrums. We present this policy and budget speech during a month dedicated to the youth of our country. The people who 45 years ago bravely took to the streets to protest the draconian apartheid rule, the system which was deliberately designed to limit the capability of the black child. We therefore pay homage to the youth of 1976 for their selfless contribution to the struggle which paved the way for the liberation and freedom for the black child. We also tabled this budget during a difficult economic period when we are fighting yet another enemy, who this time is indiscriminate but invisible. I'm talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, which appears to want to wreak havoc on our lives. We have seen economic growth taking a nosedive and the level of unemployment soaring exponentially, particularly during the hard lockdown. As people, we must therefore continue to act responsibly. We must just follow all health protocols around this ravaging pandemic so that we can survive and save lives. The impact of this pandemic might be huge, but we must stay positive and see it as a temporal setback. We must remain hopeful that it shall surely come to pass. On economic landscape and prospects, Honorable Speaker, the ills of the stubborn triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality continue to torment our people. Our interventions to stimulate robust economic growth are also falling short in responding sustainably to these challenges. Although indications are that economic and financial conditions will remain volatile for the foreseeable future, it is not all doom and gloom as we table our department's policy and budget during a slightly better economic environment than what it was last year. As the governor of the South African Reserve Bank pointed in the monetary policy statement at the end of March 2021, getting back to pre-pandemic output levels will, however, take some time. Sharply lower public and private investment last year and the continued weakness in 2021 will weigh in on growth prospects. As a province, we regrettably experienced net job losses of 96,000 in 2020. In addition, according to Statistics South Africa's latest quarterly labor force survey, Mpumalanga recorded a further 15,000 net job losses in the first quarter of this year. This officially puts the provincial unemployment rate, according to the expanded definition, at 47.6%, with the majority of the unemployed being young people. Despite these challenges, there is a message of hope to the 4.7 million people of Mpumalanga that the global, national and provincial economies are busy recovering. This will eventually have a positive impact on our provincial growth. The South African Reserve Bank has now revised both the global and South Africa's growth figures upwards to 6% and 4.2% respectively for 2021. Clearly, this recovery path won't be without challenges such as fiscal constraints, the rollout of the vaccine program, and adjustment to a new economic landscape and a new way of doing things. On our commitments and interventions, Madam Speaker, Kerry Clarkson, in her song entitled Stronger, says, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." And I believe it even makes you much wiser. Thus, to mitigate the impact of the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic, we have developed the Economy Recovery Blueprint, dubbed as the Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. This plan consolidates and focuses on impactful economic opportunities to stimulate growth and create the much-needed jobs, especially for the unemployed youth. The Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan is a plan that truly brings hope and optimism. In the main, the plan focuses on 7 priority interventions, namely, roll out massive infrastructure projects across the province, growth through industrialization, localization and export promotion, supply of sufficient, secure and reliable energy and green economy initiatives, employment stimulus, growth and recovery of tourism. Lastly, agriculture and food security, and lastly, gender and economic inclusion. Although we are in final stages of consulting social partners on other projects that could be included in the Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, we have, working with social partners, already started implementing some of the projects proposed in the plan. Madam Speaker, in her inaugural address, the Honorable Premier Ms. Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane raised the issue of enterprise development as a focus area of her administration. She indicated that the focus will be on the development of industrial parks to develop and promote SMMEs and cooperatives. In response, our department will thus accelerate coordination and monitor the implementation of the SMMEs and cooperative strategies. In line with the growth path, we will further continue to strengthen support to existing and new SMMEs and cooperatives so that they can access business opportunities in the various sectors of our economy. Our department has been successful in working closely with development finance institutions such as the Small Enterprise Development Agency and the Small Enterprise Finance Agency to assist SMMEs and cooperatives that were affected by lockdown to access the SMME Relief Fund made available by the National Department of Small Business Development. In this regard, a total of 908 small businesses, including informal businesses like spaza shops and fruit and veg hawkers, were financially and non-financially assisted. In the 2021-22 financial year, we want to give particular attention to the township and rural economy. We will be developing a focused strategy in this regard, working with youth and women-owned enterprises in particular. We will soon be making a call to our people to share innovative ideas here on. We believe it's time we hear from them what exactly it is they view as critical areas wherein we could come in and intervene as government and private sector partners. According to the BBBE Act, a sphere of government, public entity, or an organ of state must file the audited annual financial statements and annual report annually, compiled in terms of Section 13G(1) of the Act, to the BBBE Commission. Thus, our department aims to ensure that such reporting on BBBE compliance is adhered to by embarking in the process of BBBE verification with all the provincial departments and its entities to track the provincial government progress on BBBE compliance. We will also promote the activities of the Provincial Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Council through engagements with social partners to ensure that businesses owned by black people equally benefit from available economic opportunities in line with the BBBE Act. We further intend to increase the number of black-owned businesses and individuals benefiting from the Black Industrial Program through the Memorandum of Understanding or Memorandum of Agreement we have with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and the cooperation forged with the development and funding agencies. We therefore call upon potential black industrialists to come forward and apply for the DTIC's industrialist scheme, which offers a cost-sharing grant ranging from 30% to 50% to a maximum of 50 million. The quantum of the grant depends on the level of black control and the project's economic benefit and value. The targeted sectors include, amongst others, agro-processing, mineral beneficiation, pulp, paper and furniture, manufacturing-related logistics, clothing, textile, leather and footwear, industrial infrastructure, as well as most manufacturing sectors in line with the IPAP industrialization path. Our department commits to provide the necessary support to the potential industrialist in terms of the application process, working with the development and funding institutions to provide support in co-funding and offer business development support. In terms of growing the economy through reindustrialization, localization and export promotion, Honorable Speaker, the rollout of massive economic infrastructure projects is essential to economic recovery and growth. As a department, we also share the sentiment that the economy can only achieve sustained growth if it expands manufacturing. The adoption of the Mpumalanga Industrial Development Plan and its implementation roadmap as far back as 2015 was thus informed by the point of view. It is our conviction, therefore, that the rollout of the Industrial Development Plan will definitely contribute towards the development of an integrated and diversified industrial base in the province. In this regard, we can inform this August House that construction work at the site of the much anticipated Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market is progressing well. Overall, the project is 35% complete with an agro-processing building at 42%, roof sheets are installed and finishes are ongoing, and the main market building at 22%, concrete surface beds and roofing are in progress. Furthermore, when the department appeared before this August House last year, we indicated that we are rolling out the project initiation phase of 2 industrial technology parks, namely the Petrochemical Industrial Technology Park in Secunda in Kavenbegi local municipality and the Forestry Industrial Park in Sebi in the Tabacheu local municipality, as well as the Nkomazi Special Economic Zone in Komariti Port in the Nkomazi local municipality. In the case of the industrial parks, our focus during the previous financial year was on addressing all statutory compliance requirements so that development activities are not unnecessarily hindered or delayed during the implementation processes of these catalytic projects. We are pleased to announce that the statutory compliance requirements relating to the petrochemical industrial park are almost complete. The general plan to establish the industrial park has been approved by the Surveyor General. This paves the way for the registration of the township, which we hope will be registered by the end of September this year. As far as the Forestry Industrial Park is concerned, we have experienced some delays due to objections and the sluggish process of resolving the surface rights issues of the designated site. However, we are working very hard to address all these challenges, and we are convinced that we will find an amicable solution with all the affected parties. With regard to the Nkomazi SCZ, we can report that the rollout of the interim phase is moving towards completion. There are few issues that we are finalizing so that the development phase could commence. This includes the operationalization of the SCZ entity, preparations of the SCZ site for development, finalization of the statutory compliance requirements, and securing concrete agreements with investors. We expect to conclude most of these issues by the end of the 4th quarter of this financial year. The good news is that the SCZ is now registered as a state-owned entity. Already capacitated, we have already capacitated the program management unit of the SCZ by staffing it with 5 professionals who run daily activities of the entity. The interim board was also appointed in April 2021. We have further started the process of having the entity listed by the National Treasury. As an indication that we are on the right track, we can report that the SCZ has already has investment pipeline worth over 10 billion rand in the agro-processing, green energy and logistics sectors, which collectively have the potential to create just over 18,000 jobs within the Nkomazi and surrounding region. We can also report that significant progress has been made towards implementing the God's Window Skywalk project at the Blade River Canyon Nature Reserve after Treasury 3 was received by the MTPA. The private party to the project has also accepted and even signed the appointment letter. The MTPA is now in the process of facilitating the signing of the P agreement with the relevant stakeholders, including the 4 commercial property associations within the Blade River Canyon Nature Reserve, and this will pave the way for the commencement of the project. We envisage that the MTPA will hand over the site to the private party during the 2nd quarter, ending 30 September 2021. In terms of exploiting the green economy for faster economic recovery and growth, Madam Speaker, the emerging green economy is a lucrative sector which we must exploit to realize even faster economic recovery and growth. In this regard, the department has secured technical assistance to the tune of 10 million rand from German's development agency. The technical assistance will thus be provided to the province by Green Cape, which has a contractual agreement with GIZ in the area of green economy. Our department has already signed a service level agreement with Green Cape to assist in the implementation of the Mpumalanga Green Economy Cluster by providing support to businesses and investors in the green economy space so as to remove barriers to establishment and growth. The province has already established the Green Economy Advisory Council Committee, which has drawn members from government, the academia, and then business. The committee will advise the province on global trends and practices that will assist in advancing the growing sector and growing the sector. We will soon engage the embassies that have expressed interest in working with the province, such as the embassies of France, Britain, Denmark, Germany, and European Union, which, like South Africa, are the signatories in the Paris Agreement of 2015. These countries also happen to be global leaders in funding the climate economy, which the province, through its green cluster, is hoping to benefit from. The private sector has announced huge investment in the province, targeting projects on solar energy, wind energy, biomass, battery storage, gas, wood bonding material, hybrid fuel, road, waste gas from ferrochrome, land rehabilitation, reclamation of mine water, and sustainable agriculture. International institutions such as Munson from Romania have expressed an interest in working with us on the reskilling program of the mining and fossil energy sector as they lose employment due to decommissioning at unprecedented levels. The UEDA entrance program focusing on energy transition from coal and carbon, which is an international research program supported by the European Union, has even extended an invitation to our department to participate in this prestigious policy research work, which over the above studying coal regions in Europe will also seek opportunities from Mpumalanga, just transition prospects which in the end will benefit the province in many ways. The province will also participate in another research project funded by the German government called the Co-Benefits Program, and will base its studies on qualifying jobs, skilling, and industry opportunities based on renewable energy deployment in Mpumalanga. This will be on a project which mainly focuses on carbon capture, utilization, and storage, aimed at enabling the just transition, with a huge investment in facilities to be constructed at Volkskrust and Secunda. This relates to the coal ash beneficiation products, which will focus on production of a wide variety of products using coal ash from Eskom power plants. This will entail identification and optimization of technologies for ash beneficiation. On reigniting tourism, which is our gold mine, Madam Speaker, in our quest to reignite our tourism industry, which continues to be negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic-induced lockdown, our department, working with the interested parties and the private sector, has developed the Mpumalanga Tourism Recovery Plan. Through the MTPA, our department has so far disbursed 10 million rand as relief funding to 353 qualifying tourism businesses affected by the lockdown. This was in addition to the 11.9 million rand disbursed to 238 provincial tourism businesses from the National Tourism Relief Fund in 2020. The MTPA also continued to implement various marketing campaigns, including domestic activations. To mention but a few, in collaboration with the National Department of Tourism and South African Tourism, the MTPA activated a domestic campaign dubbed as Summer Differently, which was meant to encourage South Africans to travel domestically. Joint marketing campaigns with the 3 regional tourism organizations in the province were also conducted. During the current financial year, the MTPA will continue to market and promote Mpumalanga as a tourism destination of choice. We really want to increase the number of tourists to the province. Thus, for the 2021-22 financial year, the MTPA has prioritized to conduct virtual leisure and business events, marketing activities related to World Travel Market Africa, host celebrations of the Khatsibande Resistance and Liberation Heritage Route, and implement the winter and festive season campaigns. Honorable Speaker, tourism safety also remains our priority because our visitors need to feel safe so that they can come back to visit us. The DCSL employs the tourism safety monitors and deploys them at all the strategic tourism sites. Thus, we shall work together in this regard to ensure safety of our tourists. As our country's constitution also enjoins us to protect and preserve our fauna and flora for prosperity, our department, through the MTPA, continues to utilize technology to protect our endangered species like the rhino and the leopard, amongst others. The MTPA, amongst others, utilizes satellite and VHF tracking collars on individual animals, utilizes microchips on the animals, has acquired the shared remote surveillance monitoring cameras, has acquired digital radio networks. We have also upgraded and rehabilitated infrastructure at our tourism attractions and provincial nature reserves so as to improve visitor and tourism experience. This was done through funding provided by the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. For example, the Loskop Dam Nature Reserve, the MTPA has upgraded staff accommodation and water supply system and erected a fence. During implementation of this project, 57 temporal jobs on a fixed-term contract of 14 months were created for the people of Tembisile and local municipality. Various rehabilitation and construction work was also done at Mauche Shongwe, allocated a total budget of 18 million, which included upgrading of the entrance gate, storeroom, bulk water supply and swimming pools, and this work is scheduled to be completed in September this year. This project has seen a total of 142 temporary jobs created on a fixed-term contract of 18 months within the Ngomazi local municipality. The Mtetomusha project was allocated an amount of 16 million for, amongst others, the erection of a 5-kilometer fence, which has been completed, upgrading of the environmental center, office complex and staff accommodation. This project has created a total of 135 temporal jobs over a period of 16 months for local communities of Mpakeni, Lupisi, Danchi, Zwelisha and Matsulu. In the current financial year, the MTPA has prioritized upgrades of tourist attractions in the panorama route, which include walkways, ablution facilities, and interpretation centers to be accessed by people living with disabilities, thereby complying with the Tourism Universal Access Principles. Following the proclamation of the Barberton Makonjo Mountains as a World Heritage Site, the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has now appointed our department as the management authority of the World Heritage Site. In terms of the World Heritage Site Convention Act of 1999, the proclamation was gazetted on the 22nd of March 2021. This necessitated us to start consultations with the affected landowners, local communities and other interested parties, and we have concluded such consultations. The World Heritage Site also offers an opportunity to expand and create new diversified tourism products offering such as accommodation, guided hiking trails, interpretation centers and restaurants. For the current financial year, the MTPA has prioritized to construct geosites, gateways, nodal points and erect signage at the World Heritage Site. In terms of strengthening governance at our public entities, Madam Speaker, we will focus on strengthening governance structures and inculcate a culture of regular collective planning and reporting between our public entities and the department so as to be able to effectively report to other stakeholders and be accountable for our performance. And this, in strengthening public entity oversight, we will implement additional entity oversight procedures and structures that seeks to contribute positively towards the attainment of clear objectives and targets by all our entities. We commit to urgently appoint new boards for MEGA, the MTPA, as well as the board of the newly established Mpumalanga Nkomazi SCZ, and fill critical funded vacant positions within the department and the entities in the current financial year. As part of enhancing performance, there is an urgent need to implement systems upgrades across our entities and the department itself. Following budget allocations made by the Provincial Treasury in this regard, which was 16 million and 4 million for strengthening regulatory and revenue collection systems respectively, the department will commence procurement processes centrally so as to benefit from economies of scale and ensure that all entities and the department itself benefit from this process. We are committed to clean governance. I have charged the DARDLEA, MEGA and MTPA to work towards achieving clean audit outcomes within the first year of the current MTF. They must urgently clear all negative audit findings and put effective preventative internal controls to avoid recurrence hereof. Both of the management and the boards of our entities must be held accountable for any financial management failures in this regard. It cannot continue to be business as usual. On business regulations and governance, Honorable Speaker, when we appeared during the same occasion last year, we committed to commence with the process of awarding the 4th casino license in the province. We can report that we have since deferred that intention until further notice. This is to allow the economy to sufficiently recover from the devastating impact of the hard lockdown induced by COVID-19 pandemic. As legally mandated through our public entity, the MER, we have and will continue to regulate the gambling and liquor industries, heighten enforcement on compliance to liquor license conditions, and even collect applicable gambling levies and liquor license fees due to the provincial fiscus. In terms of gambling and liquor applications, the MER received 303 new applications during the year under review and finalized 316, including 13 applications carried over from the 2019-2020 financial year. Cumulatively, the total of 6,474 licenses were issued by the entity as at the end of March 2021, which was made up of 379 gambling licenses and 6,095 liquor licenses across the province. As we are a caring government, we will also, through the MER, intensify our education and awareness programs to encourage traders to trade responsibly and members of the public to exercise caution regarding their interest in gambling and liquor consumption. Our department is also enjoined to protect consumers from unscrupulous business practices. Hence, we will, through the Office of the Consumer Protector and Consumer Court, continue to provide consumer protection services, including consumer education and awareness programs. We must thus promote fair and ethical business practices. During the previous financial year, we received a total of 430 consumer cases and 426 of them were resolved within the stipulated turnaround time of 7 days. Prominent complaints we received mainly fall within the motor vehicle sector, furniture, debt dispute, and financial services. Through our intervention, we have recovered 2,378,955 rands and 34 cents on behalf of our consumers. Honorable Speaker, in terms of budget allocations, Vote 6, the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, which is underpinned by 6 programs, is proposed to be allocated an amount of 1,354,663,000 rands to fund its plans for the 2021-22 financial year, broken down as follows. Program 1 is allocated the amount of 108,466,000 rands. Program 2, which is integrated economic development, is allocated the amount of 641,613,000 rands. And this amount includes the amount of 237,320,000 rands to fund the requirements of MEGA, and further amount of 341,922,000 rands to fund the development of the Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce. Program 3, Trade and Sector Development, is allocated the amount of 32,476,000 rands. Program 4, Business Regulation and Governance, to be allocated the amount of 137,808,000 rands for business regulation and governance. Included in this amount is the total amount of 116,801,000 rands to enable the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator to continue to implement part of our legislative mandate. Program 5, Economic Planning, is allocated the amount of 20,330,000 rands. Program 6, which is tourism, allocated the amount of 413,970,000 rands. Included in this amount is an amount of 408,297,000 rands to fund the requirements of the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Madam Speaker, the total amount proposed to be transferred to our 3 public entities is 762,418,000 rand, and this represents 56.28% of the total budget allocation to the department. As the executive authority of the department, I now request the Honorable House to consider and approve the total budget allocation of 1,354,663,000 rands to fund the requirements of the department and its 3 public entities for the financial year ending March 2020. And in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, surely you also believe in the saying that after rain there's a rainbow, after storm there's a calm, after the night there's a calm, and after the end there's a new beginning. I would therefore like to confirm that surely the ravaging storm of the COVID-19 pandemic shall also come to a pass, and when that happens, we will all delight on the bright side of the economic growth rainbow. As I close, I take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Honorable Premier and the leadership of the African National Congress in the province for believing in me and affording me the opportunity to lead this department, which is mandated to steer economic development and growth activities of the province. I further extend my appreciation to my colleagues in the Executive Council, the Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism for their continued support and guidance. My gratitude also goes to the entire DARDLEA team led by the acting head of the department, Ms. Kukuma Shiteng, for steering the ship with such resolve, vigor and determination. All chairpersons and CEOs of our public entities, their dedicated teams and the support staff in my office, to my family, organized labor, the private sector and the people of our province, thank you for continuing to partner with us. We value your contributions on this journey. Rest assured we shall overcome. A new economic beginning awaits us. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, let's continue to grow the economy of the province together. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mkachwa, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the 4th order of the day.
Order number 4, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on Vote 6, Department of Economic Development and Tourism.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable T.M. Makaringe, to table this report.
I, T.M. Makaringe, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, table this report for the Department of Economic Development and Tourism for this House for consideration.
I am informed that there is no debate on this report. Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt this report as tabled by Honorable Makaringe. Agreed to? As so agreed.
Agreed.
That brings us to the end of morning session. The proceedings are temporarily suspended until this afternoon at 2:15 Honorable members, please reconnect at least 10 minutes before 2:15, so that if there are connectivity challenges, the chamber support staff will be in the position to assist you. You will remain standing until the proceeding has left the chamber.
Sekuyathula siloga out yini? Testing. Yeah. Testing. You can go on the passive test with this.
I can hear you, Jakey.
Yeah. Okay.
Testing 1, 2, I'm inside the chamber, I can hear you.
Musa?
Yes, Mr. Mkajwa.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Musa?
Hear you both as well, gentlemen, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Musa?
Yes, Mr. Mkajwa, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Musa?
Yes, Mr. Mkajwa, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me when I'm talking to you?
Loud and clear.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Mr. Mkachu.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You on the speakers, the speakers in the chamber?
Yes, on the podium. On the podium.
Okay. And
on the big screen, can you see me, gentlemen? Like I said, leave it for now. I'll come and switch over. Thursday, 16 nayo hybrid.
Let's test it. Yes, are you connected now? We just want to test from our side and see if things are still okay. Oh, okay. All right. Select the chamber. That's what we are saying.
colleagues, I don't think I'm needed.
Switch off. If it's him talking, the speaker, to the outsiders, this is what he says. Okay. But when it's someone out there.